body and landing down the center.
News. Of course she's jealous. She's jealous and she's bitter and I mean, I don't know, I'm going to say I can't blame her, but like I've only been boxing for 3 years, like really as a pro, and she's been boxing for 13 and, you know, she's known now because of, she's my mandatory. Yeah. You know, I mean, I suppose she's probably a little bit jealous and whatever, but, you know, it doesn't really matter because in the end all that's matter is in that ring. I think she's mentally weak. To be fair, I think that's why she's such a bully. I think she's not secretly insecure, but I feel like, you know, insecurity is loud and confidence is quiet. And I just feel like, you know, there's those little things there. I think probably her underestimation of me, thinking I've literally just got here because I stripped my clothes off and doing the same script from, you know, Shani 2020-21 that you know, I'm just a model and I can't fight, and she wouldn't even use me for sparring. Apparently, I think she said that about a year ago. So we'll see. I'd like to see what she has to say to everyone when she has to explain how she got beat by a lingerie model. And that's going to be exciting.
The reigning IBF champion of Australia, Ebony Bridges, was in town for the Canelo-Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin trilogy, and, you know, it appears that she's had enough. She's had quite enough of the trash talk from her countrywoman and veteran fighter, Shannon O'Connell.
She's not going to put up with that shit anymore.
She was quoted as saying, "I kept my mouth shut for 2 years, while O'Connell has continued to scream and rubbish my name at any opportunity. Pretty sure she joined Twitter just to talk shit about me. Now the fight's on, she's awfully quiet."
Reality hit.
Excited to give her the taste of the EB she's been begging for. And it is true that as far as Ebony and Shannon, there wasn't much in terms of back and forth the last couple of years.
There wasn't.
And
that more or less started this year.
You know, anything Ebony might have had to say about Shannon and some of the things that Shannon's had to say about Ebony, but it really was Shannon from the very beginning who made her feelings about Ebony known, saying well over a year ago that she wouldn't even use Ebony Bridges for sparring. And this was at a time when Ebony Bridges wasn't a champion. No, she wasn't a champion. She was an up-and-comer, somebody attempting to climb up those ranks in order to one day be able to fight for a title. This was well before she got the blue belt. And even then, Shannon made her feelings about Ebony crystal clear, made her feelings known. She has been taking shots at Ebony longer than Ebony's been taking shots at her.
I don't know. Ebony just can't seem to get along with anybody named Shannon. Shannon Courtenay, Shannon O'Connell, Shannon Doherty, Michael Shannon.
Shannon Sharp.
Matchroom won the purse bid for the Bridges versus O'Connell IBF mandated title defense. We talked about that here on the channel.
It's a great fight. And whilst there might be some pressure on Ebony as the reigning champion to deliver, to seal the deal and successfully defend the IBF title, while there is some pressure on Ebony, that goes without saying, there's also pressure on Shotgun Shannon O'Connell, who's had a lot of things to say about how Ebony carries herself.
She has had a lot of things to say about Ebony Bridges' boxing. I mean, if you tell the world that you wouldn't even use this woman for sparring.
When you actually share the ring with this woman, you have placed pressure on yourself to not just win and make it look easy.
Because you're the one saying that she's no good.
Ebony Bridges is now being trained by veteran trainer Mark Tibbs, and you might be familiar with that name. For what it's worth, I actually think that Ebony Bridges, in spite of being the less experienced boxer, albeit a champion, a reigning champion, in spite of being the less experienced boxer, she has the stronger corner.
It's part of the reason I don't think anybody should be underestimating Ebony Bridges in this.
Shannon O'Connell, least of all, because she's the one that's got a fighter.
Shannon O'Connell, who's been on some hell of a run.
She has, but I'll tell you something. The Ebony Bridges that stands before us here today is in many ways a more experienced professional than Bianca Elmire was when Shotgun Shannon fought her and gave her first loss. She's a more experienced fighter now than Bianca Elmire was, more experienced than Taylor Robertson, more experienced even than Shernika Johnson, who's a pretty educated boxer.
She's more experienced than Kylie Fulmer was. She's more experienced than Sarah Higginson.
I don't think people pay attention to what Ebony Bridges has done so far and who she shared the ring with so far, because for some, it's become the trendy thing to do to trash her. But she shared the ring with Shannon Courtenay, shared the ring with Meilise Gengloff. More recently, she shared the ring with a long-reigning champion from Argentina in Maria Cecilia Roman.
Those girls that Shannon O'Connell's been fighting,
And many of them were very good fighters in their own right, but they weren't in their careers when they fought Shannon where Ebony is in hers. Ebony's not just some fighter, she's a champion.
who just beat a champion in order to be a champion.
I feel like a lot of Ebony's critics, they quite conveniently overlook that.
Well, that's because most of what they're saying is driven by emotion, driven by hate, really.
And even with the hate, in the beginning, the very beginning, it might have made a little bit of sense to question the legitimacy of Ebony's run as a boxer. But here and now, after she's become a champion, having beaten a long-reigning champion, it doesn't really make sense to question her anymore.
I'll tell you, I really like this Bridges versus O'Connell fight, but I don't think people should underestimate Ebony.
Shannon least of all, because it's her reputation that's on the line as well. In men's heavyweight news, Shelly Finkle stated it's wholly true. Deontay Wilder's manager, Shelly Finkle, explains why he avoided fresh approach from Anthony Joshua's promoter, Eddie Hearn, but insists Wilder is open to fights with AJ. He was quoted as saying, "It's come out a few times by Eddie Hearn that I avoided him," he said on TalkSport Fight Night. That's partially true. Well, it's wholly true.
What the hell have I been telling you guys?
My perspective as a boxing fan, my perspective as a consumer of boxing, is that if you can't see this for what it is, it's because you don't want to. You just don't want to.
The writing is on the wall. You just don't want to read it.
It's always been there. Shelley continued, "We have a fight coming up with Robert Helenius." Eddie emailed me, "Can we talk? I have some big offer for Deontay. Right now we have the Helenius fight. That's all we need to concentrate on, because if something went wrong there, nothing else would be. And if it goes right, it'll all get worked out." And I maintain my original position that opening up a dialogue shouldn't have been an issue, because the Joshua fight didn't have to be Wilder's next fight. It didn't have to be next or even after next. But you have to start that conversation. You have to start somewhere. That's what these people...
These managers and all these people that are involved. While Deontay Wilder's getting ready for Robert Helenius, you can iron out the details for a Joshua fight.
And I felt, if I got on a call with Eddie, the next thing you would be on the call to me, "Oh, did you and Eddie talk?" So I said to Deontay and Al Heyman, "What do you think?" And they said, "Let's just get this fight out of the way." And sure enough, Eddie Hearn says, Shelley didn't even talk to me. I think he also has had this feeling that I dislike Eddie.
Did you catch that part? Did you catch the part about Deontay and Al Heyman?
Back when DAZN offered Deontay Wilder that $100 million guarantee, $100 million, $120 million, whatever it was, there was a story published that indicated what took place in the meeting.
The meeting Deontay Wilder, Shelly Finkle, Lou DiBella, and Al Heyman attended.
Per an anonymous source that was there, that was privy to that meeting and privy to what took place, the anonymous source stated that, when they made Wilder the offer, Al Heyman whispered into Wilder's ear, "Mayweather camp money."
And we know what happened after that. Deontay Wilder rejected the offer, went his own way.
The rest, as they say, is history. There have long been obstructions in place, obstacles, in association with the Joshua versus Wilder fight, and Al Heyman is one of them.
He always has been.
What do you think, that Lou DiBella was fired by accident?
Huh?
Al Heyman had him removed from the picture because Lou DiBella's the one that set up the meeting between Deontay and the people at DAZN in the first place. Al Heyman didn't like that.
And he doesn't like this. Unless Al Heyman can deliver this fight to one of his broadcast partners, it don't go down.
It doesn't happen. And that's always been the case. That's always been the obstruction.
Well, it's always the case when it comes to Heyman fighters.
Unless they have no other option, no other choice.
Look, let me be more specific. He's not going to send Wilder to DAZN, and he doesn't want to work with them either.
That's what the situation was, And that's what the situation is. Now ask yourself if Al Heyman was operating in Deontay Wilder's best interests when he advised him to reject that offer from DAZN so he could stay the course and fight Tyson Fury for it the second time. Ask yourself a question. Things having worked out the way they worked out, was that the right move? Was he really operating in Deontay Wilder's best interests or his own?
You see what happened to Wilder.
Wilder's fans hate Tyson Fury. But it's Wilder himself who brought him into the picture. I mean, they really don't like Tyson Fury. And admittedly, I don't either, but for different reasons than Wilder's fans. Better still, Tyson Fury only found his way into the world title picture because Al Heyman and Deontay,
They're the ones who let him into the world title picture. They're the ones who made that happen. Without them allowing Tyson Fury a title shot, we don't get to this point.
that is the reality of the Wilder versus Fury trilogy and how it ended and what Deontay Wilder feels he suffered because he still believes Tyson Fury cheated. He still believes something was going on there. Well, whatever was going on, it's your people that set those events in motion because that guy don't get a title shot unless you give him one.
That's what you did. Don't cry about it now.
Oddly enough, Shelly Finkle, unlike Deontay Wilder, he's not accusing Tyson Fury of cheating. Quite the opposite.
You know what he said? He said, deep in my heart, I believe Deontay Wilder could beat Tyson Fury.
He hasn't shown it. Fury executed his plan. I have a lot of respect for Fury. The man has conquered a lot and risen to the top. My hat's off to him. No mention of foreign objects concealed in Fury's gloves. No mention of
Tempering.
spike punch or...
In case you haven't been paying attention, Shelly Finkle, JD's, they never accused Tyson Fury of cheating.
Malik Scotch, Deontay Wilder's longtime friend who now trains him. He never outright accused Tyson Fury of cheating either. The only one who propagated that conspiracy theory,
Aside from content creators who were looking to profiteer from it,
and Wilder talked it up. Wilder and his lapdog, Tay Jones.
Shelly Finkle, JD's, Malik Scotch.
I mean, what does it communicate that Shelly Finkle isn't a proponent of Deontay Wilder's theory, and unlike Deontay Wilder, he's saying that he has great respect for Tyson Fury, for all that he's conquered, all he's overcome, and where he is now. What does that say about the conspiracy theory that this guy's own manager don't buy into it?
Like I said, the writing's been on the wall for a long time, and there's a lot of guys, a lot of girls, they don't want to read it.
You don't have to. The rest of us can read it just fine. And when it comes to what happened with Tyson Fury and what's going on here and now between Wilder and Joshua, rather, what isn't going on and why those talks, they haven't even gotten off the ground. Well, it's because somebody doesn't want them to.
And now we're supposed to play along and act like Joshua's really on the table.
Usyk too. Alexander Usyk himself expressed an interest in facing Deontay Wilder. And, Shelly Finkle says, yeah, they're open to that fight. They're open to that fight. But what are they really going to do?
What are they going to do to get it? Likely the same thing they've been doing to get a Joshua fight.
Which is absolutely nothing.
When I guys, always I say this, you share that video and put whatever you want. When I say I don't want to fight Mexican, it's because I represent Mexico. And that's why. But I don't care. I fight anybody. And I fight my entire life, anybody. What do you think? I don't want to fight with Juan Mexico or Benavidez. But look, I hear his dad talking a lot of shit. But look, he's accomplished nothing. One single champion, Anthony Dirrell. Please, don't disrespect myself. Please, guys.
David Benavidez himself reacted to the final installment of the Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin saga, saying, trash-ass fight. But that's what y'all want to see.
No, that's not what we want to see. We want to see you. We want to see you fight more guys like David Lemieux.
The amount of praise that David Benavidez gets for kicking cans down the road, fight guys like Tyrone Davis and Ronald Ellis, and so obviously past it David Lemieux whilst being dubbed some kind of Mexican monster.
For beating cab drivers and pool cleaners.
The story is that Canelo Alvarez may not return to action until next May or next September. All depends on how long it takes him to recuperate, how long it takes him to heal. And being honest, given the run that he's been on, that he's been more active than all of his contemporaries, I'm okay with that guy taking time off. And no, that's not an excuse for guys like David to sit on their hands and play it safe and fight in fights that nobody gives a shit about.
You're telling me that between now and May they can't make the fight between David Benavidez and the winner of Plant versus Durrell?
Caleb Plant, former IBF champion Caleb Plant, is supposed to be locking horns very soon with former champion Anthony Durrell. A lot of people feel that Caleb's going to win that fight. I feel like Caleb's going to win that fight. And if he does, the very next option, which should happen next, is a Plant versus Benavidez showdown. And they're on the same side of the street.
I tell you something, Canelo Alvarez has already boxed 2 times this year, and it'll be a crying shame if David Benavidez only fights once, because he's only fought once.
Once this whole year. Canelo Alvarez is up there taking on unbeaten light heavyweights, coming back down in weight, taking on the likes of a big name fighter like a Gennady Golovkin. And what are you doing?
What?
You're fighting David Lemieux.
David fucking Lemieux!
And we're supposed to look at Canelo Alvarez in a harsh light. No, we're going to look at you in a harsh light.
That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna look at you for what you are. A name-dropping, clout-chasing, underachiever.
Let me make this abundantly clear. It's not that I'm against David Benavidez actually getting a Canelo Alvarez fight. He just so happens to be Canelo's mandatory challenger. So at some point, Canelo might very well have to deal with him. But the idea that David is in any position...
You're in no position to criticize who Canelo's fighting and how he looks when he's fighting them, because he is fighting better people than you are more often.
More often than you are. I wonder if the people at Matchroom and DAZN were to make David Benavidez an offer to cross over to their side of things, would he take it?
If that's what he had to do to get that fight, do you think he'd cross over, or do you think he'd try to play hardball?
As if he's in any position to play hardball. As if he's in any position to tell Canelo Alvarez where and when a fight between them is supposed to happen. See, the way I see it, Canelo Alvarez already has a Hall of Fame career. A 4-division champion, 2-time lineal, 2-time Ring Magazine, current reigning undisputed champion. Yeah, he's paid the cost to be the boss. David hasn't.
There's no excuses for it.
If what you're trying to do is humiliate the guy and turn the boxing fans against him, well, you're going to have a hard time doing that fighting the kind of people that you've been fighting.
There is still enough time left in this year for you to get another fight in, and if you don't fight...
If you don't fight before this year is out, you don't fight between now and May, if you don't fight again, who the hell do you think is on your side? Not the paying public?
Because you're not giving them the kind of fights they want. What you're doing is name-dropping this guy in interviews. That's what you're doing.
You and your daddy. And enough is enough.
You let the Caleb Plant fight pass you by when you both had titles.
You priced yourself out of a Demetrius Andrade fight. I didn't forget that Samson Lukowicz asked for over $7 million for that fight.
You let the Plant fight pass you by. You priced yourself out of an Andrade fight.
You don't seem to want to go to light heavyweight, even though you're busting at the seams to make super middleweight. Enough is enough.
Something's got to give.